Life processes in living organism, part 2. What are the important life processes in living organisms? We have seen in previous standards that nutrition, respiration, excretion, sensation and response, that is control and coordination, are essential life processes in each living organism. Without these life processes, living organism cannot remain alive. Then in the last chapter we have studied about cell division, that is mitosis and meiosis. We have seen that in mitosis, two cells having 2n number of chromosomes are produced, and in case of meiosis, 4 haploid gamete having n number of chromosomes are produced. The chromosomes are important for cell life because the chromosome, they store the information about the structure and function of that cell. So apart from these important life processes like nutrition, respiration, excretion, sensation and response, there is one more life process, that is reproduction. Reproduction is not essential for the organism to remain alive. Means without reproduction the organism can remain alive, but reproduction helps to the continuity of the species of that organism, because every organism has to die after its lifespan is over. So if reproduction was not there, then the number of organisms in that species will decrease over time, and after some time that species will be extincted. So to avoid the extinction of the species, that means to continue the species or to keep the number of organisms in that species constant, reproduction is necessary. Reproduction is not necessary for the life of an individual. It is necessary for the continuation of the species. Here some methods of reproduction are shown. In the first case you can see that the reproduction is taking place through the roots of this plant. In the second diagram you can see the formation of egg in a hen, that is also a reproduction. In third case you can see that the seed is germinating and the root and shoot system is being developed. In the last diagram you can see a single cell is dividing its nucleus and cytoplasm to give rise to 2 new cells. So all these life processes, they means all these diagrams, they represent life process called reproduction. What do you mean by maintenance of species? Maintenance of species means keeping the number of organisms in that species constant. Whether the new organism genetically exactly similar to earlier one. In case of asexual reproduction, yes, it is exactly similar. Only small changes occur due to the inaccuracies in the biochemical reactions while copying the DNA. Otherwise it is genetically exactly similar in case of asexual reproduction. But in case of sexual reproduction, it is not there. And the reason behind that we have seen in last chapter, that in process of meiosis, recombination and crossing over between the chromosomes occur. That means when the haploid gametes are formed having half number of chromosomes, the parental chromosome, that is the maternal chromosome and paternal chromosome, they undergo recombination and crossing over. And the new chromosome, haploid means a single chromosome that is created, is a combination of the 2 parental chromosomes, and this combination is unique every time. So in case of sexual reproduction, we don't see the genetically exactly similar, means the progeny is not genetically exactly similar to its parents in sexual reproduction. Who determine whether two organisms will be exactly similar or not? Their DNA, their chromosomes. What is the relationship between cell division and formation of new organism? Cell division is a very important process in reproduction. In case of asexual reproduction, cell division is the main process, whereas in case of sexual reproduction, the meiosis and fertilization, they are important. So without cell division, reproduction cannot occur. Here we will first give the formal definition of the reproduction process. The formation of new organism of same species by earlier existing organism is called reproduction. Formation of new organism of same species by earlier existing organism is called reproduction. Reproduction is one of the various important characters of living organism. It is one of the various reasons responsible for evolution of each species. We have seen that natural selection governs the evolution, and for natural selection to occur, reproduction is very much necessary, because the changes that occur, they occur over the generations in that species. Reproduction occurs mainly by two methods, and they are asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In this section, we are going to study about asexual reproduction. So first, let us define asexual reproduction. Process of formation of new organism by an organism of same species without involvement of gamete is called asexual reproduction. Here the word an organism is very important. That means there is only a single parent. The process of formation of new organism by an organism of same species without involvement of gamete, this is also important. Haploid gametes are not involved in that. Means it occurs by the cell division. As this reproduction does not involve union of two different gametes, new organism has exact genetic similarity with the reproducing organism. This is uniparental reproduction, single parent, and it occurs by the mitotic cell division. Absence of genetic recombination is a drawback, whereas fast process is an advantage of this kind of reproductive method. Because there are no two gametes and there is no crossing over and recombination, the progeny is genetically exactly similar to the parent. So absence of genetic recombination, absence of diversity, absence of different characteristics is a drawback. Why it's a drawback? Because the environmental conditions are continuously changing. So to adapt with the changing environmental condition, generations of organism has to change their characteristics, and these are possible through genetic recombination. In asexual reproduction, genetic recombination is absent, but fast process is the advantage. That means in every generation a small change can occur due to inaccuracies in the DNA copying, and these small changes can accumulate over time to large changes, and because the process is fast, accumulation also occurs fast enough. So fast process is the advantage, lack of genetic recombination is a drawback of asexual reproduction. Now let us see different types of asexual reproduction. First is binary fission. Take a conical flask and collect some water from a pond having stagnant water aquatic plant. Add some wheat grains, that is food material, into it and some aquatic plant into it. Keep it for 3-4 days so that wheat grain and plants will decompose. Early in the morning on the 4th day, take a glass slide, take a drop of water from this flask. Then put a cover slip and observe that drop under a compound microscope. you will see many paramosia and they are performing binary fission. Here you can see that there is a transverse axis, and along the transverse axis the paramecium cell is divided into two cells. First the nucleus is divided, followed by the cytoplasm division, and hence two paramecium are formed. So this is a binary fission. A similar kind of binary fission also occurs in amoeba. A single amoeba cell is there. Now for amoeba it has a random shape, so the cell division will not occur along any specific axis. It can occur along any axis. So it is called simple binary fission. The nucleus is divided, cytoplasm divided, and single amoeba is converted into two amoeba. Now there is very interesting thing about this binary fission, that after the formation of the daughter cells, the parent cell doesn't exist, or you can say that the parent cell exists in the form of daughter cells. So this doesn't occur in sexual reproduction. After giving birth to new generation, the parent also continue their life. But here you can see that the parent has disappeared and the two daughter cells are formed. In other words, you can also say that when that amoeba was evolved, that single cell is still living in the form of all the amoeba we see around us. Same thing is true for the other unicellular organism undergoing binary fission. So this binary fission is done in prokaryote like bacteria, then in protist like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, and eukaryotic cell organelles like mitochondria and chloroplast. They perform this asexual reproduction by binary fission. So examples you have to remember: bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, and cell organelles like mitochondria and chloroplast. They do such binary fission. In this process, the parent cell divides to form two similar daughter cells. It occurs either by mitosis or by amitosis. Now, axis of this cell division is important. Amoeba, it divides along any plane, so it is called simple binary fission. Paramecium has a transverse binary fission. You can see the horizontal plane in which the paramecium divides into two cells. In case of euglena, it's a vertical plane, so that's why it is called longitudinal binary fission. So remember, for paramecium we have transverse binary fission, and for euglena we have longitudinal binary fission. In case of amoeba, it's a simple binary fission. No fixed plane is there. So this is about the binary fission, the first method of asexual reproduction taking place in unicellular organism. Second is multiple fission. Asexual reproduction by multiple fission is performed by amoeba and other unicellular organism when there is lack of food or any other adverse condition are there. Lack of water, you can say, lack of food, lack of water. Amoeba stops the formation of pseudopodia, and thereby all the movements are stopped. In adverse condition means when amoeba doesn't get food or water, it stops all its movement, stop the formation of pseudopodia. It makes it round, it becomes rounded and forms a hard cyst, hard coating around that round shape. Such encysted amoeba or any other procyst is called cyst. Now in that cyst, as you can see here, this is amoeba, this is parent amoeba. Adverse condition, it has formed a cyst around it, round shape, no pseudopodia, cyst is formed. Inside that cyst there is nucleus division and cytoplasm division, and many small amoebulae are formed inside it. Many small cells are formed inside it. When the favorable conditions reoccur, cyst breaks open and all these amoebulae, they start their life. So this is what amoeba does in adverse condition. Formation of cyst, multiple division inside cyst, and under favorable conditions, all these cells start living as individual amoeba. So this is second method of unicellular asexual reproduction. Third method is budding. Bring some active dry yeast powder, then in 50 ml of lukewarm water along with some sugar, add it, then observe a single drop of this mixture under microscope, and then you will see the yeast is performing budding. Now this budding is different than the fission process. In this budding, what happens? A small outgrowth is grown on the body of the organism. Asexual reproduction occurs by budding in yeast, a unicellular fungus. Yeast cell, it produces two daughter nuclei, means after the formation of the bud, nuclear division takes place and this new nucleus enters into the blood, into that bud. A small bulge appears on the surface of the parent cell. This is called a bud. One of the two daughter nuclei enters into this bud. After sufficient growth, bud separates from the parent cell and starts living life as a new independent yeast. So what is the difference between the binary division and budding? In binary division, the cell is divided into two parts. Here an outgrowth is grown, and in that outgrowth a new nucleus is pushed, and then that outgrowth starts life as an independent organism. So this is budding. So this is third type of unicellular asexual reproduction. Now let us see asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. First method is fragmentation. This type of asexual reproduction occurs in multicellular organisms. Still, fragmentation occurs in such multicellular organism in which all the cells are very much similar to each other. In Spirogyra, you can see, even though it is multicellular, all the cells are same. All the cells are, means they have same structures. So structurally they are alike. So what happens in case of Spirogyra or sponges like Sycon? Whenever there is plenty of water nutrient available, Spirogyra filament grow up very fast. I mean their length increases, and then they break up into many small fragments. Each fragment starts to live independently as a new Spirogyra. If the body of Sycon, similarly, if it breaks up into many fragments, each fragment starts life as a new Sycon. So here, although the organisms are multicellular, all the cells in their body are same. So simple breaking down into multiple parts is sufficient for reproduction. So this is fragmentation in multicellular organisms. Second one is little bit complicated. It is regeneration. Let us see what is regeneration. You may know that the wall lizard breaks up and discards some part of its tail in case of emergency. Means when that lizard is caught by some predator, it just moves back and cuts the tail and runs away. The cut tail, it continues some movement for some time, and hence the predator thinks that it has caught the wall lizard, but the wall lizard runs away. And after some time, the tail of that lizard is regenerated. Now see, here it is not simple cell division. It is something more than that, because in the tail of that wall lizard, different type of cells will be there. There will be some muscle cells, there will be some skin cells. So all these different kind of cells are to be prepared for that tail to regenerate. So this process is different than fragmentation. This is called regeneration. And in regeneration, such new type of cells and tissues are formed. Now in case of wall lizard, it is a limited regeneration. It cannot reproduce itself in this process. Means one wall lizard cannot become two wall lizard by regeneration. But in case of planaria, this can happen. A single planaria, if it is cut, if it breaks up its body into two parts, like here shown here, this head part is there, middle part, tail part is there, then planaria can regenerate its entire body. Means the cells and tissues can be formed and two new entire planaria can be generated from those pieces. So regeneration is different than fragmentation. In regeneration, the cells are to be converted into tissues and tissues into organs. So this process can take place in some primitive multicellular organism, and this process of reproduction is called regeneration. So first was fragmentation, second is regeneration. Third is budding. We have already seen the budding in unicellular organism, but the budding in multicellular organism is little bit different. As in case of Hydra. Now you can see in Hydra there is some kind of differentiation in its body. You can see the tentacles on the Hydra body. They are actually the sensory organs of Hydra. So only simple cell division is not sufficient for reproduction. So here what happens, an outgrowth is formed on the body of Hydra by repeated cell division. Then this outgrowth is called the bud. Bud grows up progressively, again cells, tissues, organs are formed, and it finally forms the small Hydra. The dermal layers and digestive cavity. So this is the body differentiation. Here you can see, and it is absent in unicellular organism. The dermal layer, that means the skin of the Hydra, then the digestive cavity of the budding Hydra are in continuity with the parent Hydra initially. Means while in the process of making this, regenerating this or differentiating cells into the tissue, Hydra gets all the nutrition from its parent. Means that budding Hydra get all its nutrition from the parent. Then budding Hydra separates from the parent Hydra after maturation and starts to lead an independent life. When it grows up and becomes able to lead an independent life. So this is budding in multicellular organism. And the difference between unicellular budding and multicellular budding is that here there is some kind of differentiation in the body. The cells, they form new tissues, new organ, new tentacles here, the new digestive cavity, new dermal layer. And after maturation, the parent Hydra and the nascent Hydra, they separate from each other. This is budding. Next, in asexual reproduction in multicellular organism is vegetative propagation. Reproduction in plants with the help of vegetative parts like root, stem, leaf and bud. is called vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation in potatoes is performed with the help of eyes present on the tuber. So for potato it's eyes on the tuber. Whereas in case of bryophyllum, it is performed with the help of buds present on leaf margin. So for the potato it is tuber, for the bryophyllum it is the leaf margin. In case of plants like sugarcane and grasses, vegetative propagation occurs with the help of buds on nodes. So in case of sugarcane and grasses, it's node. And finally, for the plants like carrot and radish, it is performed with the help of roots. So these are the different vegetative parts. That means the tuber for potato, leaf margin for the bryophyllum, then the nodes for sugarcane grass and roots for carrot radish, from which they perform vegetative propagation. And it's a fourth type of asexual reproduction in multicellular organism. The last type is spore formation. Take a piece of wet bread or bhakri, keep it in a humid and dark place. You will see the fungus grows on it within 2-3 days. So from where this fungus has arrived? So there are spores of the fungus present everywhere in the environment. And once these spores, they get favorable condition, that is moisture and food, then they grow into mucor having filamentous body. Here you can see. So this is the filament, the rhizoids, and you can see the sporangium developing here. These are the sporangium. When these sporangium are matured, they burst and spores are released in the surrounding environment. And that's when, that's why the wet bhakri or bread, this mucor grows, because the spores are present. So this spore, they land on that wet bhakri or bread, then one generation of the mucor grows there, and then it creates a new generation of spores. When the sporangium bursts, new spores are formed and they are spread in the environment, and then they wait for favorable condition to reoccur to start their new generation. So this is fifth type of asexual reproduction taking place in multicellular organism. So in this we have seen 8 types of asexual reproductions. First in the unicellular organism, and that was binary fission as in amoeba, then as in paramecium and euglena. Then multiple fission in adverse condition, amoeba use this multiple fission method. Then in case of yeast we have seen the budding. So these are 3 asexual methods. These are 3 asexual methods in unicellular organism. And in multicellular we saw the method of fragmentation, regeneration, then again budding in multicellular, vegetative propagation and spore formation.